was an unstoppable force in the NBA and could only be slowed down by one person, himself. From the time period of Michael Jordan's second retirement in 1998 to the development of superstars such as Kobe Bryant and LeBron James, Shaquille O'Neal was by far the most dominant and exciting player in the NBA. Shaq proved to shine and rise above the rest, despite such tough competition in the middle, night in and night out. Today's video will be about NBA legends discussing how dominant Shaquille O'Neal was. Some forces are just too strong to stop, and that was the case with NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal. Throughout his hoops career, O'Neal's strength in the paint made him arguably the best center of all time, and it led to him winning 4 championships and 3 finals MVPs. However, according to Kenyon Martin, who played against Shaq in the Los Angeles Lakers in the 2002 NBA Finals, only one opponent could stop O'Neal: Father Time.
Well, no guard him, man. Like Father Time guarded Shaq.
Yeah.
Trust me, like there wasn't no stopping that man, dog. Like just no. Man, the only player ever to not shoot anything outside of the paint and dominate.
So obviously, it was difficult to defend O'Neal. But is Martin right? Was Father Time the only opponent that could stop Shaq? As Martin said, O'Neal was unguardable during his prime. Between the 1993 and 94 and 2002-03 seasons, he averaged 28.1 points, 11.9 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks. He also led the NBA in field goal percentage 6 times during that 10-year span. Several players from the league have shared their stories from guarding Shaq in his prime. During a podcast, Channing Frye shared his story of guarding Shaquille O'Neal.
I call 05 Shaq, and like you look at video and you're like, damn, he's so big. As a human being, he's not supposed to move like that. I was playing in New York, right? We're up. I know he probably went out the night before, so I'm like, I'm not gonna say right? I'm gonna just let this game go by. Third quarter comes and he's doing okay. They're down 6. He looks at me, he's like, okay, good game, Lil Fry. We gotta win this now. And just
Lil Fry.
And it basically me up for the whole quarter. Like, there's no fouling. There's no imagine trying to foul a tree moving like a cat and just dunk after hook shot after dunk. It's just impossible to move a human that big and that he's mean.
Frye made his way into the league in 2005. Shaquille O'Neal was playing for the Miami Heat during that time. Although he was not at his very best back then, Shaq was still strong enough to get the better of opponents. He was not fazed by double teams, as he had the skill to power through them and get to the basket. To gather a finer comprehension of just how much of a distinguished player O'Neal was, legendary guard Allen Iverson has disclosed details of his eminence. Allen Iverson developed a reputation for being one of the most agile, mobile, and shifty guards to have played in the league. At 6 feet, AI governed an era of the NBA when big men used to reign supreme. So, at the very least, one would assume that the answer would have an adequate understanding of just how illustrious and governing O'Neal was during his peak. Speaking about Shaq, Iverson once stated,
"Couldn't nobody do nothing with Shaq. It won't even close."
You heard it.
This is the dude, though. You know what I mean? This is that one that you really admire and respect as dominant on both ends of the court. I used to brag to my friends a lot and say, after we played the Lakers, I get to the crib and be like, yo, you seen how I laid Shaq, didn't you? You know what I mean? Like, you seen Shaq try to get that and I put that thing and how I brought the glass on him. You know what I mean? And that gave me added confidence to myself, to whereas I felt like if I could score over Shaq, I could score over anybody.
Shaquille O'Neal shared certain camaraderie with some of the high-profile stars of the late 1990s and 2000s. Allen Iverson is among them. O'Neal has previously stated that there were a handful of players whom he would grant access to score on him, as he was fascinated and a fan of their style of play. Iverson belonged to that category. During his best days, the former center was a force of nature, terrifying rivals wherever he went, including Scottie Pippen. The Chicago Bulls legend admitted in 2019 that the only player he feared guarding was the Big Diesel.
It wasn't fun. It was not fun playing against Shaq. You know, I didn't fear too many players during my career, but Shaq was one of those guys that I feared. And the fact that you had to come down and double team on him, he had the speed, the power, the spins. He was just a very difficult guy for us to defend as a team. Not for me as an individual, but I had to come down and double team.
Yeah.
And that was almost worse than guarding him because he was swinging with his arms. And, I mean, our whole game plan was if you're going to double team Shaq, you better get there before the ball get there. Because if you get there after, you're just going to be part of a poster.
Pippen even labeled Shaq as the most dominant player of all time, separating him from Michael Jordan. This man was a menace, and absolutely nobody stood a chance against him during his best days, not even Pippen.
To me, Shaq was the most
that's what I was going to say. So,
I would say Michael is probably the most unstoppable.
Yes.
But when you talk about dominant, like, we used to have to try to stop Shaq from running. Like, that was kind of the game plan. Like, don't let Shaq run. You know, it's like, don't even think about him getting the ball. Just stop him from running. He gonna beat most of the players down the court.
Even though they beefed after both players.
Hey Hoop Squad. Ready for a slam dunk of epic content? Hit subscribe, join the squad, and let's turn up the Hoops Mania.
Retired, their respect was there, and Pippen showed that with his comments. He knew Shaq was something else, and the center didn't hesitate to use all his power to beat his rivals. Rivals, friends, enemies, brothers. All of these words could be used to describe Shaq and Kobe. The Los Angeles Lakers are considered basketball royalty largely thanks to these two stars. They were simply a perfect fit together and had play styles that complemented the other well. Both of them agreed that Shaq was the one largely responsible for leading the Lakers to the finals, especially in the initial stages. Back in the 2000 finals, the Lakers were facing Reggie Miller and the Indiana Pacers. This was the first real test for Kobe as he was still a young player. On the other hand, while Shaq had not won titles in Orlando, he managed to make the NBA Finals with them. The series soon began heading into a pivotal Game 4. The Lakers were leading the final series 2-1. Game 4 was in Indiana, and a win there for the Pacers would mean the series evened out. Additionally, the Pacers thought they struck luck when O'Neal fouled out of the game. That could not have been further from the truth. Kobe stepped up and sealed the game with a narrow 120-118 win over the Pacers in Shaq's absence. Thus, Los Angeles took a 3-1 lead in the series and soon won when O'Neal returned for the subsequent games. Kobe and Shaq knew what they accomplished. In that moment, Bryant said the words we have heard him say multiple times in his life.
This is it, fellas. You work all year long for it, man. Shaq the man, most dominant player in the world.
It is unfortunate that they didn't try to settle their differences. Kobe has even claimed that he would have won 10 championships if he remained teammates with O'Neal. Shaq's legacy will live on for decades to come, simply because the NBA may never see another player like him again. There has never been another player with as much athleticism and size, who was also able to dominate both sides of the ball and have the impact that he had. Shaquille O'Neal is a one-of-a-kind athlete whose impact on the court gave us as much entertainment and joy as his charisma off the court. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. What do you think about Shaq Daddy? Where do you rank this Hall of Famer on your all-time list?